Okay, here we go. All right, ready? In three, two. Joining me today is Rod Lurie, a director of The Outpost, a fantastic new movie about the deadliest battle in Afghanistan. Rod, thank you so much for joining us. It's really an honor to have. Such an honor to have you here. I absolutely loved the movie. You know that because we tweeted together about it this week. I want to get into some of the specifics about the film, but first, just your comments. There's a late-breaking story this week. The movie's based on a book by Jake Tapper, and he's a huge supporter of the military and has been of the movie as well, the film. He tweeted on Thursday that a Fox News reporter was contacting some of the surviving soldiers profiled in the movie, trying to get them to speak out about any issues they had with Jake or with CNN. I just want to get your thoughts about this. It seems like we can't even enjoy a great military film anymore without things being political.
Right. Well, I don't know that it's how many people were contacted. We know that at least one significant veteran of that battle was contacted. And the Fox reporter, he said, do you have any issues, quote unquote, with Jake Tapper or the movie? And that seems to me to be a bit of a fishing expedition. Look, we made a really great film. It's completely nonpartisan. And I guess some guys over at Fox are jealous of the success of the film, or specifically of Jake's good fortune that he wrote this book upon which this film is based. And they want to do a hit job. So look, I say let them come. We're very, very, very confident in the film, and the veteran response to the film has been beyond extraordinary, not to mention the fact that so many people that were in that battle participated in the making of this film.
And that's one of the things I want to get at here with you, Rod. One soldier, Daniel Rodriguez, actually played himself in the film. You had a lot of them on as consultants on the film. Talk about why that meant a lot to you, because I think a hallmark of your work, because I've actually unknowingly been a fan of yours for a while, and we'll get into that a little bit later, but you know, the film really has a lot of authenticity to it. All the people that were involved in the battle, and even military members writ large, have talked about how real it feels.
Yes, you know, you want to make, every director wants to make, or many directors want to make naturalistic film. They want to have naturalism in the movies. I wanted to have actualism. And so, yes, somebody like this dude named Daniel Rodriguez, who received the Bronze Star for what he did on October 3rd, 2009, the most heroic battle of the entire Afghanistan war. He was a mortar fighter, and he came and he played himself in the film. So Daniel was one of many people who was able to say, here is exactly how it happened, and he showed it to us step by step. His story is particularly profound because he watched his best friend get killed in that battle, and he had to recreate that for us. He showed us exactly how Kevin Thompson died on that day. And I must say that to watch that, Daniel go through that was profound, because he was cold and clinical and just very professional in how, in showing us how to portray it. And then he went afterward and fell apart. And that is what a good soldier does. You know, that is what a good soldier does. And yes, we had Ty Carter, the recipient of the Medal of Honor, and who this movie is largely about. He was there as well, and he showed us exactly what happened. Chris Cordova, who was the surgeon that was at the base, he showed us exactly how he performed his surgeries on that day and kept people alive. So yeah, it was really, really important because we wanted this to be as real as possible.
That involvement from those people, no doubt, gave a sense of authenticity and helped guide you along the way. Right. But that doesn't show up on screen without you using a lot of different tools, both in the way that you shot and directed the film, to bring the viewer in. I mean, I think one of the things I said to you this week was that it really felt like I was there the whole time in the middle of this battle, which was obviously the intention. What did you do differently in the way that you shot and directed the movie that helped bring the viewer in so much?
Well, thank you for asking that question, because we're really proud of it. What we did is we had almost every scene in the film, where I would say 75% of the film is shot in what we like to call oneers, meaning uninterrupted shots. Usually you'll have a close-up of person A, and then a close-up of person B, and then the wide shot, and you know, it's the way that most movies are done, and it's been done that way for you know, over 100 years. But I thought that if you put the camera on somebody, in particular in the battle, and simply followed them the entire way through, that it would create a sense of immersion and tension, because anything can happen at any moment, which in fact was the case on that outpost. This outpost, Evan, was at the bottom of a base of mountains. It was in a terrible, terrible location. And one of these days, they were going to be hit by what they called the big one. So that means that every once in a while, not every once in a while, every day, they would get hit with pot shots as the enemy was trying to figure them out. By doing all these runners, we help get the sensation of anything can happen literally at any second of any day at any time. No moment is safe in this film, is what I was trying to get across, and I think that we did.
Absolutely, it did. The film is fantastic. I mean, really an incredible achievement. You're a West Point grad.
Yes.
You told me earlier this week that you said that this film meant everything to you. Why?
Yeah. Well, look, Evan, I graduated from West Point in 1984. And I graduated into the peacetime army, meaning I never fired a rifle or, you know, and back then an M16 in a combat situation. And many of my brothers that graduated with me did. And it's not cool. It's not a cool feeling to go back to the reunion and you're one of the people that was never on a battlefield. And so if I can, since I wasn't able to do that, if I can find a way to honor my classmates and the soldiers that they led and served with, then that's what I was going to do. And hopefully I accomplished that goal. I'd always wanted to make a war film, but it had to be this war because this was the war that my brothers fought in. And sisters, by the way.
That's right. Yeah, a great, interesting voiceover from a helicopter pilot who's a female, kind of there at the end, where one of the soldiers thanks her for her service right in the middle of this battle.
Yeah.
You've done a lot of political movies, actually.
Yes.
I didn't realize that one of my favorite political films, The Contender, was done by you back in 2000. It was a really intricate film. Same thing, you know, kind of the action reaction shots done with one camera, not in the same way like a steady cam shot as in The Outpost with all that action, but it is sort of kind of a hallmark of your films, it seems, that you really kind of bring the viewer in. Nothing But the Truth in 2008, the TV series Commander-in-Chief with Gina Davis back in 2005. No doubt, you're obviously very politically engaged. Why do you choose to make these films about politics? What about that is interesting?
I grew up, and my dad was probably the number one, not probably, was the number one political cartoonist who has ever lived, Rod Lurie. And so we grew up in a household where politics was absolutely everything. And, you know, while other kids were following baseball scores, I was following primary results. I always just thought that, as Clausewitz said, that politics is simply an extension of war, or vice versa. And I just found that to always be like extraordinarily compelling, Evan. And so I was really into it. Also, if I'm being really frank, you know, I'm a very political person, and I wanted to get my political messages across. You know, my films, up until The Outpost, which is completely apolitical, you know, there have been agendas to my movies and what I want to say. I'll tell you a story about The Contender. I made the movie independently, and Steven Spielberg saw it at his house. And then he called me and he said, I'm going to buy this for DreamWorks. And so now I got Steven Spielberg in an editing room with me. And there was a scene where Joan Allen, who plays the lead character, gives a very political, very biased, liberally biased speech. And Steven turned to me and he said, you know, you have no music in this scene. And I said, well, yes, because if I had music, then people would know what my leanings are. And he says, what's wrong with that? He said, you're not making a documentary, you're making a personal film. Let people know what your feelings are. And so I said, okay. Anything Steven told me to do, I pretty much just did. And because, I mean, it's Steven Spielberg and he knows what he's doing much more than I do. And so we did that. So now there's a beautiful score under that scene. We call it The Chaplain of Democracy. Chapel of Democracy scene.
Is this the scene when Lane is in the congressional hearing
Yes.
and she's responding about a question, or is it her sort of final statement? Is it that
It's
one?
her final statement, yeah.
Yeah.
Her final statements, yeah. So Steven says, put music there. I said, okay.
That's very interesting. You also, I saw in another interview, said that you chose within the Outpost not to put a score under certain very important scenes. Why did you make those choices?
Well, because as I told you, I want this film to have a feeling of actualism. I want people to feel that they're actually there. And while a musical score is an extremely important part of the filmmaking art, it is a movie trope, right? I mean, it's something that occurs only in movies. In real life, we don't have a musical score following us around. So if I want to give a state of realism, actualism, then you shouldn't have a score. Plus, we didn't need it. You know, often a musical score is meant to accentuate a point that you're trying to make, or it is meant to serve in contradiction to a point they're trying to make, which would be an ironic score. And we just felt like we didn't need that in this film at all, that the sound of the battle was its own score. The battle is one of the reasons the battle is being viewed as so realistic is because we don't have any music under it, I think. There was no music under, I believe, under the Normandy storming in Saving Private Ryan.
I believe you're right, which is an incredible film I just watched again recently as well. Bring me a little deeper into the mind of the director. Why does the use of a score there indicate your political leanings?
Well, you know, it's interesting. If I have my villain saying something, then I will sometimes will put a very dark score under there. We'll go into a minor chord in order to give the sense of a gloomy or dark situation. And sometimes you will have a score that will heighten the excitement of a situation. If you've seen the film Rudy and you hear Jerry Goldsmith score, or you see the film Rocky and you hear Gonna Fly Now, then that heightens your sense of exhilaration as you're watching the scene. Music is normally is used as a form of manipulation of an audience. It doesn't always have to be. Sometimes, like I said, it can be its own piece of art. Like, for example, the score that is under the Runners in Chariots of Fire was just simply something unique and beautiful, and did not necessarily have a specific emotional resonance. But we just felt not necessary in the Outpost. Although Larry Goupet, the score that is there by Larry Goupet, which is a lot of sound, you know, in that case, he does a lot of sound design. And then at the end, when they leave the Outpost, we have a full-on orchestral score. And that just heightens the impact, I think, of that moment.
I'm certainly no expert, Rod, but it was an excellent choice because it really did draw you in and made you feel like you were there, and unnecessary. I think you're right.
And then we have at the end of the movie, you know, we have a song, right, called "Everybody Cries" that I wrote with my composer Larry Goupet, and then got some finishing touches put on it by Rita Wilson, who sang the song, and you know that also was you know sort of very important to the project, and that song in particular was written. I was flying back to location. I had left location to be with my son because my son died while I was in prep on this film, and he had a blood clot. And as he lay dying in front of me, literally going away, my daughter, who was with me, said, "Dad, you know, I know that you feel like you cannot make this film now, but you really have to go, because if Hunter, who was this massive movie lover, knew that this film in particular had fallen apart because of him, it would destroy him." So I got on a plane going back to Bulgaria where we shot the film. They had already been looking for a new director at that point. Everyone assumed I wouldn't come back, but I did. And on the plane ride there, I wrote this song for my son. And it works so well in the film, Evan, because my son was the same age as the men who died in this battle. And I wanted everybody in the audience to understand, or to help understand, what the sense of loss is when you lose a child, because every single one of those men was somebody's child.
You saw that nameplate at the end of the movie to your son. I was going to ask you about him, but you just spoke beautifully about him, Rod. So I appreciate you letting us in. I can imagine. I can't imagine. I have a 1.5-year-old son, and he's the world to me. So I'm so sorry for your
Well,
loss.
Evan, it was really something. But Hunter became a rallying cord for the entire film. I put his photo up on the monitor, and every time that somebody would come back to bitch about something, because there's a lot to bitch about when you're making a war film. It's a very difficult thing. They came back, they saw Hunter's photo, and they just turned around and went back to go on set and just do their job, And I have to say that myself and the crew and Jake Tapper before me, we became very, very, very close to the families of the men who died. They're called Gold Star families, and for a reason.
Rod Lurie, director of The Outpost, a spectacular new film. I mean, Rod, I hate to. Is there anything that we missed? Because I know that this is your baby and it means so much to you.
Well,
Anything that you wanted to get out about the film that we missed?
Oh yeah, you betcha. There's something I really want to get out. You can because I really want people to see this film. Look, we've been #1 film of the summer probably, but you can see it on VOD, and it is in fact in some theaters in Florida. But if you can't see it there, don't feel safe there. It's on video on demand on Amazon, iTunes, all those places, and in a couple of weeks it will be on DVD. So we really encourage you guys to see it. It's my best film, and I hope you'll see it as one of the best war films of the century, because I think it is.
I couldn't recommend it highly enough, and I completely agree with you. Rod Lurie, director of The Outpost, thank you so much for joining us on Battleground Florida. It's just an honor to have you here, sir.
Thank you.
All right.